All right. Hi, friends. How you doing? It is Kyle Brown here with Fit 365. We're on our next fun hangout interview where we're talking about the idea of transforming from fear into fit and the multidimensional, multifaceted versions of what fit really means. So I brought on a pretty fun guest here who I met out in New York City at a really cool Nexus event. He is a huge fan of Spock. He is incredibly coordinated. And this is my buddy Erwin. E, how you doing, bud?
Hey, what's going on, dude? We're rocking.
Sweet. Well, I'm going to tell everybody who you are, and then you can tell me the really important question, which is the history behind all the epic hats that I've seen you in now, because you do master the hat realm. But
Game strong.
hat game is powerful. I've got my microphone that makes it look like I'm riding in a helicopter right now, but your hat game is nothing short of legendary and only
Thanks, bud.
secondary to your hug game, but we'll tap into that in a minute. So Erwin Benedict Valencia, he is a well-being expert and a polymath. More than 20 years as a clinician in the sports rehabilitation and performance industry, more than 30 years of meditation practice, 20 years of breathwork and yoga practice, combines mindfulness and clinical mastery plus sports science and positive psychology when working with athletes and a lot of startup entrepreneurs as well as performance artists. And bottom line, I'll say the biggest thing is we met out in New York at this Nexus event, and we're sitting here, and a couple of people are like, "Oh, this is really cool. You do all this stuff. You need to meet Erwin." So I'm sitting over in the corner in our well-being lounge at the event. We started chatting, and I realized I was sort of talking to myself, but with a way, way cooler hat game than I had. And I get lost in big cities, but you had the New York game on super strong. But tell me a little bit first and foremost. You're an absolute long-term guy into so many of these things that have transformed from the state of, we'll call it woo-woo, into acceptable, into scientifically recognized, into hip and trendy. So what was your first step down the route of the multidimensional, multifaceted?
Well, first and foremost, Kyle, brother, thanks for having me here from Fear to Fit. Who would have thought that I would find myself talking about this situation, particularly because it resonates from my own life path already from the
Yes.
begin with. I mean, all of us who are in some sort of challenge or having a question in our head have managed to always find ourselves trying to look beyond what is right in front of us. And then by doing that,
Yes.
we go from what we initially feared to then being into what we consider, whether that's physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, or spiritually fit. So,
I love it.
um,
It's a redefinition of what fit truly is, for sure.
yeah. So what's interesting is that this journey of mine actually started at such a young age. My first introduction to kind of balance really in life was through martial arts. Like any typical kid in Asia or even in the Philippines, particularly, my father was a brown belt in karate, which he learned when he was going to graduate school in Japan. And I still remember to this day the photo of him wearing his brown belt in a stance. And that was something I always saw on the top of his desk. And I always thought that, man, it would be amazing to have my own photo like that. And so he started introducing me to karate at probably the age of like 4 or 5 or so. And
Nice.
but it really wasn't until later on in life, taking karate and then this and then other kind of martial arts. And then it wasn't until Taekwondo came into my life when I was in really fourth grade. Coming back from the US, I lived in the US, and that's a whole different story, where I found myself living with my godfather in California by myself because of some political unrest that was going on in the Philippines.
Mm.
So coming back, one of the things that I want to do is learn self-defense. It was something my father wanted me to be ready for in case some certain incidences that have led me to have to go to California when I was 8 years old, kind of got me prepared for anything that would happen. So I found myself taking Taekwondo. I ended up getting a black belt by the time I was 7th grade. And
Nice.
the interesting part of that was the fact that I enjoyed it as an exercise. I enjoyed the fact that we found stillness every time we started our sessions or started our training every Saturdays. But what was interesting is that the moment I got my black belt, my sensei took upon himself to really make me a teacher right away the moment I got my black belt. So I was in a sense his prodigy, and he not only in a sense used me to be able to like teach the classes in the morning of Saturday mornings. It also made it an excuse for him so he can go out on Friday nights. I mean, I understand he was an older dude. He was a guy, and he was a cool, martial arts dude. And I knew he wanted so bad to maybe like have fun, but then he never had somebody to start up the classes. So next thing you know, I became a black belt when I was 12 years old, 12, 13. And then I became assigned to be like the junior instructor of the whole Taekwondo, class. And over like 50 students. And we started each of our sessions on Saturday with meditation and stillness and just quiet. And then I just kept them. I started looking back nowadays, and I'm trying to figure out what words I used to say in order to get both kids. And we even had people in class that were older than me. So it was kind of interesting to I was by the time playing with myself as a 13-year-old. Okay, how can it sound right that it sounds authoritative, but doesn't, but not too authoritative so that the kids don't feel afraid of me because I'm just the junior guy.
Yeah.
But it started there. It started with martial arts and then kind of teaching kind of mindfulness and meditation through action and, over through forms and through just stillness at the beginning of class to then discovering at that same period of time, there was discovering a method called the Silva method. And I was like I said, about 13 at that time. And I was sitting down in my 13, 14, I was sitting down in my lunch table with my family, reading the Sunday newspaper. And at that time I was trying to figure out how can I get an edge with school. I mean, most of my classmates were absolutely smart and genius and intelligent. I felt like I was just a hard worker. And I need an edge to kind of push myself more. And I was reading this newspaper, the Manila Bulletin, and it said, and there's a small ad that was placed there in a corner, like a 1/8 ad that said, increase your grades, increase brain power, check the Silva method, blah, blah, blah. Call, 1-800, whatever you want to call it. At that time, I was pretty impressionable. So anything that would get me a better grade, anything that would get me an edge, to be able to be smarter or as smart as my classmates, I said, let me give them a call. So at that time, I called and I asked them how much it would cost, where it was going to be held. And I didn't have the money, as a 13, 14-year-old, you're like, at that time, maybe it's like, say, $50, whether it's $50 or 100, I didn't have it on me. So right. I said, are you going to have this every year? And they're like, we probably would. And I was like, okay, well, give me a year. I'll call you back. And so it took a year, and it took that Christmas particularly where I had to do a song and dances for my cousins and relatives and try to put the hat and put money into my hat and ask my grandparents for money. And then, and then pulled it all together. And the next year was able to pay for that program myself because my parents were like, what is this? Is this a cult? What are you trying to join? We're not, we'll support you. We'll drop you off at the place, but we're not going to pay for it. If it's something you really want, you save for it. So I did. Right. It took almost a year next summer to save for it. That's how my journey began, really, with regards to the understanding of the brain and the heart and how to then expand that. At that tender age, I learned how to visualize. I learned how to mind map. I learned how to bend spoons. It was like, and having the power to bend spoons because of mere focus I was such in disbelief, but I knew the difference when I wasn't focused and I was jealous or of my classmates that were good at it, and I was not getting the results I wanted. I was like, then I
Yes.
was losing focus on that. So martial arts, the Silva method, and then a book called The Celestine Prophecy. That's really
Ah, yes.
what made it solid for me. Now it became the fantasy of what that meant, and with coincidences that are things that destiny created, and not and the nine insights and all that other stuff. And that just completely expanded my world. So, and that I got as a book, as a friend, as a gift from a friend of mine at the age of 16. So really, that 13 to 16 years old really changed the path of where my life is today. And I got a funny story about that. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
25
yeah.
years later, 25 years later, I'm attending. I was on my 4-hour work week, travel the world, time of my life after baseball, and I found myself at a personal growth conference called A-Fest by a
Yeah.
personal growth company called Mind Valley. And this was A-Fest's third reiteration, and it was being held in Dominican Republic. And at that time, I was running low in funds, but I knew that this is a step I needed to take. So I used my points, my points from my airline. I saved enough money to be able to go to the conference and book the hotels. And my first day when I arrived there, I go to the registration area and where everyone's meeting, and I see this lady in the corner. Her name is Laura Silva. And I said, oh my God, I was like, I think that's the daughter of Jose Silva, who created the Silva method. And
Ah,
this girl who's right in front of me, and we're chatting and we're going, I was like, oh, wow, do you know Laura Silva? Because, her father changed my life. I was a Silva method graduate 25 years ago. And she goes, really? That's such an amazing thing. I go, yeah. And I can't believe I get the chance to meet the daughter of Jose Silva, a guy that literally changed my future. And she goes, well, that's funny because he's my grandfather. And
ah.
I was like, oh, snap. And she goes, Mom, you need to meet this guy right now. So she pulls me over, brings me to her mom, and I tell the story. And she goes, wow, not only was I, a result of the Silva method, so was Vishen, who started Mind Valley.
Oh, he
So
was as well.
yeah, he was a little kid doing the Silva method, because Silva method at the time was like, I guess, like Tupperware, I guess. And it's weird to say this. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Love you guys. Sorry.
yeah.
But they went through channels across the planet to
Right.
disseminate the education in a very analog way, prior to all what we have now, internet marketing and all that other stuff. So
Well, you took that concepts and those mental stillness concepts and the power of the mind concepts, and you brought them into a pretty interesting place, which is, elite level sports. So I know we've talked off interview about what it was like to try to bring it into organizations and create awareness. What has it been like for you to be able to take and show people the idea of this East meets West combination and how it can apply to balance and really coming from a place of unawareness to awareness in sports?
it's been a journey.
Yeah.
I think no goal is achieved without the struggles that you have to go through in order to achieve them. I have to say that because, initially when you try to bring forth any kind of idea, those who have not seen it before will have, in a sense, a little bit of fear of what you're about to do. Not because you're going to take a spot of somebody or make somebody look bad, but because you're not sure of how it'll be perceived.
Right.
And the story that's created in everyone else's head, and my naivety to bring it forth of playing the politics in sports or in life in general, is something that I had to go through. So
Yes.
I was lucky that when I was in baseball for for 8 years, we had a head athletic trainer who was probably one of the most innovative um, athletic trainers in Major League Baseball with regards to medical and performance staffs. And he always had these yearly kind of summits that he invited all the athletic trainers and strength coaches throughout the whole organization, the major and the minor leagues. And then every year, about a month or two after the end of the season, he brings together all in Pittsburgh, and we'd either bring in a guest speaker or we'd ask, somebody amongst ourselves who has a new idea we can share within the organization. And I was a guy who was a rabid learner, and I wanted to know every technique that was out there that was both East and West, and I wanted to figure out how I can share that. And we were given that opportunity every year during our own, organizational summits. But also what I learned from him is how to play the political game. If you're going to introduce something, don't introduce 5 things in 1 year. Introduce one thing. So then people can absorb what it is, can understand what you're about, and understand how it can affect the players and why it can be effective and good for the players. Because the players themselves can't take 5 to 10 things in one sitting. They need just one thing because they have so many other things to focus on. So if you are going to be part of the cloud that clouds their head, then they'd rather not have you get involved with that. Mm-hmm. So if you can give one tool per year to share with everyone, and then to use that tool on players, then there's an understanding of the whole organization of what you are and how you do things.
Right. And what was like the first big tool that you brought that has now kind of become mainstream that was totally not seen as something anybody was willing to bring into, professional level sports?
It was PRRT, which is primal reflex release technique that was developed by John Iams, who's out in Poway, California, right there in San Diego.
Yeah.
And he really opened my mind to the ability to use a multifaceted technique that combines East and West, which also involves nutrition and everything else, in a technique that allows for awakening of the body through tapping and through reciprocal inhibition and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because I was the first one in pro sports to use that. And I was the first one in pro sports to then to share that to the rest of this pro sports world. It was something I used when I was working in New York City prior to getting the job with the Pirates. It was something that started from a mere phone call, which also started from a ad on Advanced PT magazine. I was once again on a journey to try to figure out how I can get an edge. I was using manual therapy, with my hands and my elbows, and I was getting tired of the body work that I need to do on people when in fact I need to probably do body work on myself. And yes. And so how can I make it easier and more efficient with better results? And I began a search, and I found this, and this was something that was just being developed or being shared by John. He's something that's developed within his 30 years of practice, and I had a call with him. I called him from a coffee shop in Manhattan, in the Upper East Side, a coffee shop I frequented, and he could hear the background noise of the beeping of the taxis and the ambulance, police cars. And he goes, "Wow, you're probably way upregulated up there." And I was like, "Okay, but what does that mean?" And right. Then we started talking the lingo, and he goes, "I was in the Navy for a long time. And, as we went out, the input of so many things that occurs when you're working in the Navy and you get deployed can really affect you." And I think I was on my own personal journey after being in the Navy of figuring out how we can tap into our primal reflexes in order for us to help heal and to help perform better. And we had a nice 30, 40-minute chat, a chat that John would never forget as well because of the noise in the background. And he said, "Why don't you try my free course first? It's online. It's a quick one, blah, blah, blah. Couple of videos." So I tested that. And then I was convinced I needed to fly to San Diego. And I went to his house in Poway, and he had a basketball court sized library. The basketball court or the basketball gym was his library. So,
Wow.
so the entire basketball court, and I imagine basketball court, and put each wall was books.
Oh,
Still a basketball court,
yeah.
but each wall was books.
Wow.
Like, so it was like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. Like everything from Korean acupuncture versus Chinese acupuncture versus Japanese acupuncture. There was a whole acupuncture section, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like, things from India, all the things from India and Ayurvedic medicine all in one section. It was like, so it was pretty amazing. And, I continued in the path to learn and be better and better at that technique. And that was the first thing I really brought to not only the organization of the Pirates, but also brought to the National Athletic Training Association national convention, which I
Mm.
felt I went beyond a lot of people's heads. I was given an hour of theory, an hour of demo, and then people were just like, "This is so overload. This is overload too much."
So I think the operative word right now is overload. And I think when you were talking about people, the background noise being taxis in New York City, which right now actually you probably actually can hear the birds chirp for the first time in New York City with what's going on. You can actually hear nature, like, whoa, this city's actually in the middle of nature. But the overload factor that's going on with people right now, I think, is that they're self-isolating and they're hearing the word corona somewhere in the realm of too many times a day. So as they're getting this background noise and everything's in the background noise of their kids, background noise of the news spewing fear, and they're trying to create some level of normalcy and awareness, cortisol levels, stress through the roof. Everyone's anxiety and stress level is, I would estimate, in the 50-60% higher than normal if they're
Sure.
if they're functioning at all. So given what's going on right now, we know when they're at that level, their operating system is coming from a place of fear subconsciously, and their higher self may be operating on one level, and their conscious mind may just think that they can just shove it down and, oh, I'm not feeling it, I'm going, but their focus sucks. And being somebody who has worked on focus since he was, what, 4 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, what would you tell someone right now if they're in a sense of like, my productivity's out the window, I can't focus, I can't get anything going on right now, and my stress and anxiety is through the roof? What kind of things have you been implementing, or would you recommend others implement right now if they want to elevate their focus and productivity and just overall happiness?
It's simple. It's be present. I think it begins with that. When we first wake up in the morning, we have a choice. We have a choice to start overthinking things right away and allow the day to come to us,
Right.
or like envelop us completely, or we bring the day, we come into the day.
Right.
And by allowing ourselves to be more present and practice that skill of being more present, it allows you to get control of everything, and then in turn be more aware of whether or not the thoughts in your head are creating these stories that then become detrimental.
Right.
So by allowing yourself to understand where you are at that moment, any given time, and to pause and even taking a nice quick breath allows you to be able to start your days with a clear approach
Mm-hmm.
and a more focused thought process. Because once again, you have a choice.
Right. So one thing that I've seen in your presence, we've actually had the benefit of being present right now on a quantum level because we can't be physically present, is via dance party. We've been attending some pretty epic dance parties via Zoom, which has been a pretty cool experience. Fun is a big part of your essence.
Mhm.
How have you been having fun just day to day right now with everything that's going on? And what kind of things can you push to people besides happy hour, just get wasted and sit around and bitch about coronavirus?
Fun and joy in general is something that I've managed to just find, and whether it's whether it's Corona, pre-Corona, or even post-Corona, I think I
Right.
will always find joy. Whether I'm
Yes.
inside my house, whether I'm outside my house, whether I'm with people, without people. I think for me, it's a mindset,
Hmm.
and allowing yourself to just be open to many different things that are available out there, can always bring joy. I mean, I go from anywhere from doing 2 to 3 different, Instagram live / Zoom fitness health things a day
Yeah.
to, going outside. I have very lucky to be able to walk literally a soccer field behind my house.
Oh, nice.
So literally walk out, get my ball. Today I was doing 40s. I haven't done 40s in a long time. I did
Nice.
40s today. I did stairs, and
Woo.
I usually end with penalty kicks. I've managed to find joy in reliving passions that I used to have, but never had the time to continue because
Yes.
life takes over. So I ask myself each day, okay, what do I want to explore? I have the opportunity, I have the choice to explore something that I haven't done before. You know what? I haven't done boxing in a while. So what's available out there? And Rumble is one of those companies that's out there that does like boxing fitness stuff. And you
Hmm.
can either watch it live as they go on. They have the schedule that they continue to go, or there's already pre-filmed stuff on their Instagram TVs and or from their Instagram lives, and you can
Hmm.
watch that and just do it on your own. You're still part of
Love
whatever
it.
the feeling in the scenario, but it definitely brings you a sense that you're part of a bigger community as you see the names coming up. And number two, be creative with what you have around you. Like I said, I'm very lucky that I have a football field behind me, and like I said, I don't think I remember the times I did 40s, but you know what? Today, you know what? I'm gonna do 40s today. You know why? Because I built up to it. Because when we first, 2 weeks ago, when I first going out to the field, it was still a little cold. It was still, I just was messing around playing. But as I was building up my own physical health, I believe,
Yes.
you know what? Maybe it's time to kind of see where I am here. So
Yes.
I did those. I started my progressions first, was doing secondary lead sprints into primary lead sprints, and then today was the day for 40. So I want to be creative, and so find whatever's available. And
So adapt and overcome,
yep.
most definitely. And I love your reframe of exploration right now. And I know that some of the most powerful people who've undergone some real life tragedies that are 10x what we're experiencing now with coronavirus, to give people perspective, things like the Holocaust. If you look at some of the most brilliant minds, anywhere from Anne Frank to Viktor Frankl, and they're
Mhm.
talking about you know the reframe of possibility despite anything that's going on.
Mhm.
And I love what you said of looking at this as what can I explore. And exploration and play are just so darn important right now. We talked about some of the things that you do habitually in the morning for setting up yourself for mindfulness, gratitude. Where I'm seeing people tap out early the most right now is midday, when normally their mental emotional bandwidth could make it to that nighttime glass of wine or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or anything that you're feeling that's working or that you're seeing that's working to help people with that midday, like, how the heck is it only 12 or 1? I feel like I've been going for 6 weeks and it's only been 4 hours.
The middays are a challenge.
Yeah.
The middays are a challenge for everybody. I mean,
Right.
even for myself. I think
Hmm.
the one thing that keeps my mind right is the fact that I do intermittent fasting, so I don't eat till 2.
Yeah.
So I'm like pushing myself to be more creative of what things I can do, so I can make sure I don't
Mm.
just sit around and wait till 2 o'clock comes. And so because we have the gift of time right now, has allowed me to say, okay, how can I fill my days? Well, what time do I start my mornings with my gratitude, my gratitude habits and my mornings and the stuff that I
Right.
do. and the meditation and all that stuff. And then what times I do my workouts, and then what times I do, and I partition for learning more than anything else. And so, before I even eat, and I even use eating and even use lunch itself as a time to explore as well, because that's my first main meal, and that becomes
Right.
really the main meal of the day. What
Yep.
can I do today different that I made yesterday, and why is today special and different from any other day that I'm going to eat this meal particularly? So I make themes. So let's say on Mondays it's meatless Mondays. So I go vegan on Mondays.
Yeah.
Because not only does it cleanse me, but it also gives me more creative ideas of how can I make vegan meals and learn
Cool.
recipes and all that other stuff.
Love it.
And then Friday, I'm Catholic, so we have Lent, and Fridays we're not allowed to eat meat. So what I do is like, okay, what can I do that's plant-based, but not necessarily vegan, that I can still like eat, and that I part of Lent and type situation, and then do that. And then on the weekends I celebrate it. Celebrate. So I know the difference between a weekday and a weekend. And on the weekend, I make my Filipino brunch with garlic fried rice and eggs, and, sometimes some bad meat choices that are delicious and cultural, but not necessarily the healthiest for you. But it allows for creativity and magic. And then on Sundays, it's something that I dedicate to like family. So what are the great memories in my head of, let's say, for example, my father used to, because of his time in Japan, learn how to make Japanese curry. And Sundays are when I explore. Like, say, this last Sunday, I made a big pot of Japanese curry.
Oh, wow.
My father, and I would send a picture, and I send it to like my family and be like, hey, today is Japanese curry day, dedicated to Pop and his favorite meal.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
But I know this, I digress. I know we're talking about a whole week of creativity, but when it comes to the day, one of the things you can do is to energize yourself is, as you mentioned earlier, is just have a dance party, whether on your own, friends, call it the lunchtime jam, and whatever, whether you're by yourself in your house, nobody's really watching. So who cares? Just dance, play some music. If you want some friends to join you. If not, then not. But it's something that energizes you.
Movement is everything. And I know it seems like you and I both got into movement, resistance training, any type of physical training because of its empowerment factor, more than a vanity factor or I'm trying to lose weight to have self-esteem factor. Dancing is a beautiful, beautiful form of that. When you're training, are you incorporating that in? Are you feeling flow? Are you feeling connected? Are you getting yourself centered when you're doing your actual workouts as well?
Like my own personal workouts?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've been very lucky to have been surrounded by and learn from a number of the top gurus in the world of health and fitness. And what I take from each one of them is what I apply to my own personal fitness goals and stuff.
Right.
And I think one of the turning points for me was last year is that I for a while I did my own thing, then I tried a bunch of different things. But then as I slowly learned the different kinds of exercises, and a view of this is to be mindful of my colleagues. We obviously, I was a performance director and a couple of strength coaches and my colleagues as well. And each one of us, funny, have our own little like favorite things of how we work out.
Oh, nice.
For a while, mine was yoga and hot yoga and power yoga and all that stuff. But then what I need that allowed me to have fun in the weight room and be different. It's this need for me to be creative and unique. And I got bored of just hanging out in the weight room when everybody else would come and be working out there. Or a treadmill, which really, I began asking myself, does this spark joy? Does this really serve me the way it served? And so looking at what I'm truly interested in had to do with being outside, had to do with something more creative, and and had to do it also with maybe being in water or surrounded by water, something with water.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that I've been in search for something. And in the last year, just exactly a year ago, I went to my first XPT program and retreat with Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese.
Oh,
And
wow.
PJ Nestle and Mark Roberts there.
Mm-hmm.
And the XPT program allowed me to find a fitness program that fit me perfectly because I grew up around water. I'm a water baby. I'm a Cancer. My zodiac sign is a Cancer, and my name Erwin means sea friend. So I am a water
Ha!
person.
No kidding.
So I grew up in the Philippines. I'm an island boy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me to be around water, to be able to do things in water, no matter how challenging they are, I mean, I did not know that I had the ability to push 50-pound weights underneath the water when it's about, 8 feet of water above me because I had no choice to, because I had to breathe. But
Oh, man.
you get pushed so much because it's either you push these weights up or you don't breathe. Simple that. So, and at that moment in time, it makes you understand the value of this in real life. What if you're surfing and a wave hits you?
Right.
Hits you again. It's like having 50-pound weights in your hands, and you have to find a way to push that in order to catch your breath.
So I played college water polo at Indiana. And then when I got into
I didn't even know that
training,
Indiana had a college water polo team.
yeah,
Really?
I did that from for the first 2 years, and I played out in London my junior year, and I came back and made bodybuilding a school sport my senior year.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we made it a club sport, and it was a great way for us to get our friends to pay to go to the Arnold Classic, which was awesome. And to also like at that time, how do you talk to a girl in the gym, right? So all of us who were a little bit shyer were like, okay, how do we talk to a girl in the gym without being creepy? And it was our gateway in, where we said, hey, you want to get some college credits and come join the bodybuilding club? So we were about, and they're like, oh, I don't do bodybuilding. We're like, anyone who works out is into fitness and nutrition is a bodybuilder. You're sculpting
There
your
you
body.
go.
This is 99.
That was a great segue.
Oh, it got us 75, 80%, healthy, fit,
College
attractive girls in our
experience.
club. Oh, totally. And sales experience, absolute sales experience. So for me, it's really interesting to see where weights and water and everything can be involved. And one of my where we met, I was actually promoting one of the companies that I'm partnered with, which is called Bloom, which is now turning into its new name, Vessel. But the CEO of that company actually is a total extremist entrepreneur. And he said, hey, I want to do big wave surfing like Laird. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, well, I don't want you to die. So what kind of program should we do? So the number one rated surfer in the world, his coach right now is a guy out of Australia. And he put a program together for big wave surfing that we then incorporated in. And then I also had to deal with the fact that this guy needed to add some muscle on. So what we did during the training for John, the CEO, is we did a combination of like a high intensity resistance training exercise so we could pack on a little bit of muscle, and then a high intensity move like either a mountain climber or ice skaters or something that would get his heart rate really just soaring and into a breath hold.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
So
okay.
right when your heart rate is soaring, because you just did like a mountain climber, like boom, 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 you go, because that's what happens with the big wave surfing. You could be on a 30-footer, you're pumped, you're trying to focus, your heart's going, and then boom, you're underwater. And so we took them from this out of shape partier into somebody who could really hold his breath underwater for about 4 minutes and could do all of these advanced moves. So he goes out to Todos Santos in Mexico. They pull him out, and for those of you listening, they pull out for this big wave surfing on jet skis. So they pulled him out in the jet ski. He's going through the day. He's getting tired. He's like, one more wave. And on that one more wave, he gets knocked down. And he's under, and he's doing his breath count. And when you are under like that, you're losing all the air. So he was knocked, rolling around. He lost all his air. And then still, after losing out all your air, you got to do the breath hold. And basically, he was going through that breath count. And I think he said it was about 42 seconds that he had to hold it without being able to take a breath in. And it practically saved him. So of course I'm getting a role with the company once you've done that. You've kept the entrepreneur in.
Exactly.
So
Wow.
out of sheer gratitude for life saving skills, it's cool. But it's amazing to look at just the power of your lungs and how that stuff can just transfer into everything, every little bit. So it's a power thing,
Mhm.
and it's also a mental, emotional, stabilizing thing that can help everything while everybody while they're dealing with COVID right now is
Mhm.
understanding the power of the breath. And one of the things that I saw was pretty cool related to the power of breath is they're saying that the lungs can help produce DMT, the God chemical,
Interesting.
uh, which I think is a pretty interesting concept. And I think a lot of that comes back to just centering yourself, remembering who you are, remembering your power, and just like you said in the beginning, the power of mindfulness and being aware, like, okay, my anxiety, my stress is all future thinking. Um, what's going on right now? Well, I'm here. I'm safe. I can breathe okay. Everything's good. We have these nice houses. We're not being attacked by a lion, right? We have air conditioning, most of us right now. And hopefully, if you're listening to this and on the internet, you're budgeting enough that you have food still. So,
Mhm.
relatively, I think we're all in a pretty fortunate, grateful situation. Um, that kind of leads me into my last question for you for the day, is your experience with gratitude before gratitude was trendy. And my visual observation of your experience with gratitude, just from watching you in person in the small amount of time we got to spend in person so far, which will change into the future, is I feel like you have mastered the expression of gratitude for other humans in your superpower of your super powerful hugs. Like, you express gratitude to other people in a hug in a way that is just mind blowing. So like you show a real appreciation for that human and their existence in that time. And it was being passed around that, man, this guy's a world class hugger. So so I would love for you just to expand upon that a little bit,
Yeah. No, it's
and let us know how you're dealing with the inability to physically hug right now.
so you know what's funny is that once again that comes from another story. My
Mm,
life, I believe, is a culmination of the things that have happened in my life that I've then managed to remember and then curate into experience
mm,
for other people.
yeah.
And you know that the hug began at AFES in 2013,
Mm,
um, in Dominican Republic, when a guy that went on stage was a guy named Jeff Marks, and Jeff Marks was the guy that started created the show Avenue Q. He also was the guy that wrote the Book of Mormon, but then there was some challenges between him and the co-producers of the Book of Mormon that he asked to be bought out and his name be taken away from the credits. But he
uh,
was the man responsible for that too. But in this period of time where he was going through trials and tribulations after that whole Book of Mormon situation, he needed to rediscover himself. And he found himself at Burning Man that year in 2013. And what he did is take time to observe people of how they hugged each other. And in a sense, did his own research anecdotally of looking at where he found people's reactions to be better than others. There's a little stand there called the Hug Deli, which was one of the first places I went to when I went to my first Burning Man in 2013,
mm,
prior to A-Fest actually, that year in 2013. And that was one of the first things I saw. And it blew my mind that you can have different kinds of hugs and all these names and from the cinnamon roll hug to the bear hug to the friend hug to the
oh
bro
wow.
to all these other things. But then so Jeff, in his creative, quirky Broadway way, started to observe things and had to try different hugs and try to see what people's reactions to them. And he ended up coming up with what he considers is the most effective hug, which is the hug that I now share. He didn't want to be known as the guy that created Avenue Q and helped co-create Book of Mormon. He wanted to be known as the world's greatest hugger. He even had like a personal, like business card that
Yeah.
literally had this graphic. This is the world's greatest hugger,
Oh, that's so good.
and it was amazing. And,
Yeah.
and and even though there's somebody who's, I think, spiritually the best hugger in the world. I think her name is Alma. I think she's
Mm,
very well known, but very spiritual. But Jeff brought it to something that's more practical,
right.
and less spiritual, just something you can give to everybody. And he explained it to everybody and how it went, and had volunteers, and that really hit me. And I said the power of purposeful touch, and how can this be expressed, um, has been something that's been so amazing for me to observe when I was watching that then I really owned it. And for the next couple of years, as I started to speak in different places, because from 2013 to the beginning of 2013 to the end of 2014, I was running my own business. I was traveling the world, bringing personal growth to sports medicine seminars, and mixing in a Tony Robbins event, and mixing in like the NATA or NSA conference, like putting them.
Yes. Yes.
It
Love
was
it.
really weird to have people on Sundays where it's Sunshine Sunday. So wear your Hawaiian shirts, wear your neon outfits on Sundays. And we're
Yeah.
talking like surgeons, we're talking like highest academic PhDs in their world. And we're talking people scientists who are like, what is this hugging thing you're doing? When I was in Eastern Europe, they were like, and then when you're in Korea and Japan, you're just like,
You need to create the hug called the double blind placebo for those guys.
I know. I know. But hey, by the end of it, because of that
That's it.
situation, it changed, and it impacted
Yeah.
all these serious people that we thought by, they would then send me selfies, from the OR, which I was like, dude, don't do that. That's not good. That's a HIPAA violation.
Wow.
But it showed that they were that connection and purposeful connection through touch was something that they undervalued, but now they realized that there was a way to do it, and there was a community that supported them to show that it was okay.
And with that being taken away from us right now, I still wonder, I'm like, when is it going to be okay publicly for people to even shake hands, let alone embrace and hugs? And I think friends will still hug friends regardless.
Yeah.
But what have you been doing to get your daily hug fill right now?
You know what? For me, that's been a challenge to get that, but I get my vibes from basic curating experiences that allow me to feel the same way I would as I was giving and receiving a hug.
Oh, I love it.
So, for example, on my nightly walks where I walk around our neighborhood, I'm getting to meet my neighbors for the first time. I've lived in this place for 4 years because I travel so much. I never see anybody.
Right.
For the first time, I'm passing by our neighbors, and even though we're 6 feet apart, we're getting to know each other. And
that's so good.
Sitting down and be like, hey, yeah, it's like, oh, you're in the mustard house. Oh, I used to like climb over that fence and blah, blah, blah. And then there's that human interaction that occurs, once a day as well. I make sure that I call somebody that I haven't seen before. I haven't seen in a long time, that I haven't called in a long time, that that I want to make sure that it was intentional, that I thank them for meeting me 20 years ago, for meeting me.
Oh, that's beautiful. I've been doing the same.
Trusting that I was a good person, and to continue this relationship as friends, even if we all both grew older, and even our lives have changed. There's a reason why we were put together at that moment in time in a laundromat in Barcelona, or the time that we were riding the same car on the way to a adult camp in the middle of Canada.
Celestine prophecy coming back into a full circle right now. Beautiful.
Exactly.
Beautiful. I just got the chills, and I will definitely say that that's just the fact right there, is that for everybody listening, if you can look at everything in life as serendipitous, meaning that there is a deep meaning behind every action and interaction, and while you still have free will, that the more awareness you have to the beautiful mixing and matching and placement of people in your life at different times, everything gets better, period. Everything gets better. Like, right. I had you on my list to connect with more than just a like and a comment on Instagram. And I look, and we're sitting here, and we're on a Mavericks dance party, a group I didn't even know you were a part of. And I'm sitting here just going, no coincidences, no coincidences. And boom, we text, we connect, and here we are right now. And man, I want to thank you for coming on and having some fun with me over Zoom. More to come. And for everybody listening, watching, wanting to know how to go from fear to fit, it's easier than you think. It's just be present, find joy in everything, and don't be ashamed of being happy despite whatever is going on in the outer world. Learn to master your inner world and learn to connect. And this too shall pass.
This too shall pass. We're in this together.
Heck yeah. Teamwork makes dream work, and all those good things actually are true.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, dude.
And last thing I'll say is where's the best way for people to connect with you, to follow you, and to and to roll with you?
Well, probably the best way is to go into my Instagram account and follow my daily stories of doing something crazy each day, or it could be mundane. But I managed to just, like I said, managed to find joy in everything I do. So that's simply just my name, Erwin, Erwin, B as in boy, V, Valencia. And you'll find every connection to there, whether that's also on, that's my social media handle for Twitter. That's my social media handle for TikTok, for those who are doing TikTok now.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, speaking of TikTok, I'm just going to share this real quick.
Yeah.
It's funny, because of the power of TikTok for the younger generation, I have found it a great means to be creative and to curate videos that still have to talk about personal growth and mindfulness, so that then this is something that the kids can realize, because then, you know, it's not just me saying blah, 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 but then making it fun and creative using the power of video. And, you know, what's funny is somebody said that, you know, that I think that platform was built for you. I was like,
oh my God, I love it.
I don't know, dude, but we'll see how it goes. You know, I'm just experimenting with it right now.
We're going to need to talk about that, because the love and joy for humor, I haven't touched the platform yet, but you just piqued my interest. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Of course. Thank you. And to everybody, stay safe and healthy. You know, we're in this together. This too shall pass.